All right, welcome to the third part, chapter 2. So, organ systems, right? I highlighted them in the very beginning of this set of lectures in part 1, right? So, we have all of these different types of organ systems, right? So, we have our skin, our integumentary system, right? One highlighting important thing it does is produce vitamin D, right? But it's also a first line of defense against external environment as well as pathogens, right? We have our skeletal system, all of our bones, cartilage, connective tissue, and so forth. We have our muscular system, right? This provides locomotion by utilizing the skeletal system. We have our nervous system, which really controls and regulates most of the bodily functions in some form or fashion, right? Through electrochemical signals. Predominantly starting in the brain. There will, of course, be examples where that's not necessarily true, especially when we talk about the cardiovascular system. But the brain's required for a lot of our normal functions and regulations of that, right? Then we have our endocrine system, which is responsible for secreting hormones, basically signaling molecules, right, to orchestrate, organize certain bodily functions, right? For digestion, for running away, especially on exam day when it's scary, fight or flight, reproduction, all those things. A lot of things in our body are controlled by hormones as well, which we'll learn is also intricately connected with our nervous system, right? A cardiovascular system carries our blood, which then also carries nutrients and other things to all of our tissues, right? There's no tissue that can survive without oxygen, without nutrients, right? And that's why the cardiovascular system, right, communicates and sends throughout the body. We have our lymphatic system, right? So this can remove substances from our blood. Really, it's the main highway by which our immune cells and the system sends our cells through the body to fight, pathogens. It has some other functions as well, but it also carries lymphatic liquids throughout the body. Kind of similar to the cardiovascular system, but not really similar. But that's typically why we throw them together. But it's its own system. We have our respiratory system, which is all about getting oxygen into the body, right? Which is intricately connected with our cardiovascular system. We have our digestive system, which this is all about mechanical and chemical breakup of our food that we ingest. This is important because we need nutrients, we need energy. We can't make it ourselves. We're not plants, so we can't collect it from the sun, so we got to get it from somewhere, and that's from eating. Unfortunately for you guys, most of you, that will be from Saga, so it could be fun. But we'll learn about that. So our urinary system, right, this removes waste from the blood. It helps regulate pH, other ions, basically chemicals, as well as water, and we'll also learn how that affects our blood pressure, right? So our urinary system, our renal system really has an important role in blood pressure. So hopefully you can start seeing here, a lot of these systems are interacting with other systems, are dependent upon other systems. Right? We kind of try to make it simple and understandable, but organ systems really are highly complex, interconnected systems with one another, right? They're not independent, right? None of these systems are independent from another one. They need each other, right? So we'll learn them independently, but as we go through the semester, try to think of, so this is how the nervous system is pulled in to the cardiovascular system, or how our reproductive system really is dependent upon our endocrine system, and so forth, right? Same with the digestive system. So when we go through this semester, doing that line of thinking will help you learn and try to conceptualize and really grasp the information when you try to put all these things together and why we care about them, right? Because in high school, you may have just been taught this information. Here at ORU and in college and in the nursing program, we're really trying to get you to understand the function of them and why we care about them and why you need to know them, right? They're not just information on a page. It's there for a reason. So in terms of this is kind of a nice segue of like, well, why do we care about all this, right? There's characteristics of life, right? We classify life. As scientists, we've done this to help us understand our environment. And so what we determined that the characteristics of life is life must have organization. There must be, some sort of interrelationship and functionality between the organ systems and our cells and our tissues, right? There must be distinctness in them, right? Remember, this could also include cytoplasmic or cellular organization, so it doesn't exclude cells from this. Metabolism, you must be able to use energy in some form or fashion to perform vital functions. Again, this can be broken down into the cells as well, but definitely as whole organisms, as humans, we need energy and chemicals from the environment to keep us alive. We need to respond, i.e. we need to be able to sense changes in our environment, both internally and externally, adjust to them, communicate from cell to cell if necessary to tell the cells on how to adjust, such as homeostasis when you go from a cold environment to a hot environment, or you just ate a meal, right? You need to, you just received external energy source, right? So you need to do something with it. So your body needs to orchestrate that. Growth, you need to increase in size or number of cells, or even just maintain the normal amount of cells that you have, right? As adults, most of us are not going to be growing anymore, especially me. I may grow out, but not up. But typically, the number of cells when you become a mature adult will not change. That, there's give and take there. But compared to my baby son, Wesley, right, he's growing, he's getting bigger, he's getting stronger. You have to have more cells, brain development, and so forth, right? So growth is a natural part of being alive. Development, so this occurs over time. It's not instantaneous. Differentiation, this just a big fancy word that you do need to know because it's common throughout all of biology, anatomy, and the physiology. It just means you're going from one general type to a specific type, so you're differentiating, right? An example of this, remember, there's cells in the body called stem cells. We'll learn about this more specifically, but they are, they can become any type of cell almost at certain stages, right? But then how does that stem cell or that general cell become a fat cell or a bone cell, like an osteoblast, right? They differentiate becoming those. Like, how does that happen? Or why does that happen, right? We'll care about that, but that's differentiation, where a general cell becomes more specific for a function. One of those functions is growth, another one is healing. Morphogenesis, right? So you can change the shape of our tissues, organs, or entire organism, like a butterfly, going from the caterpillar to a butterfly, right? An example that I like in the human body is exercise, right? If you exercise, that actually makes your bones thicker and stronger, right? That's kind of a morphogenesis of human tissue. Same with, cardiovascular system, makes your heart stronger, changes the structure a little bit. So morphogenesis is the characteristic of life, as well, finally, reproduction, both at the cellular level and the organism, right? So cells need to be able to reproduce, right? This is for maintaining proper organs and tissues, but also in terms of damage, right? Healing processes, as well as just growth and normal development. You go from an embryo to a full adult, right? Those cells have to reproduce and grow and multiply. Same, but to also maintain a human population, you have to, have more baby Wesleys in the world, right? So there's that type of reproduction as well. So we'll end this part here because we'll go into some other important things here. Actually, before I end it, I want to highlight one thing here which then we'll carry on and go more in depth here. Right? I've talked about this homeostasis thing, right? Here's the definition. Maintaining a relative constant internal environment within the human body, right? It's just homeo, which is one, stasis or state, right? So we'll go more in depth in the next video here, but I want to introduce that before I end it. So see you in the next part.